Welcome to the CMO podcast, where we interview leaders in the marketing industry who comment on current trends and what it takes to build a successful brand. Today, we've got Jennifer Arnold with us, who's the head of marketing for SAP, Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Appreciate having me here.
Jennifer, you've got a pretty impressive background in your career and the companies that you've worked with. Tell us a bit about the business that you're involved with now, SAP, and your role within the company.
Sure. So a lot of people would be familiar with SAP probably because they use their finance systems or their HR systems or one of those things in their work life. We're one of the biggest enterprise software companies. Basically, you name a business process, we've got a solution for it. I sit in the customer experience area, which handles the solutions that deal with commerce and marketing, sales and service, customer data management. So anything that has to do with delivering a great customer experience.
That's interesting. So your title's the head of marketing, but it sounds like you take care of a lot more than that.
Yeah, in the customer experience area, being a marketer, I've been involved in sales, I've been involved in service as well. I do end up doing a lot of customer-facing activity as well, where I'm going in and talking to them about best practice in those areas and how they can improve their customer experiences, not necessarily using our software, but just in the processes and the tools that they use.
Interesting. During your career, what's the biggest thing that you've learned along the way, do you think?
I think for me, the biggest thing I learned has been that to be a marketer, you can't just see yourself as a marketer. You need to see yourself as a business person. To be able to really engage right across the business, to be able to understand how it works, to understand how every touch point in the business impacts the brand, impacts the customer experience that's being offered, impacts how you market, is really critical. So you really can't just keep yourself in your marketing bubble. You need to get really roll up your sleeves and get hands-on involved in every aspect of the business to get an understanding of it.
Do you think that over the past decade, when we've seen a lot of digital technologies emerge and social media and so on, that marketing has become more powerful than sales, or do you think they've merged into one unit?
I wouldn't say necessarily they become more powerful than sales. I think it needs to have a very symbiotic relationship. Certainly one of the things we do see is with more information being readily available to our customers when they come to us, they've already done an enormous amount of research. They already know about our products, our solutions. They've looked at all of our customer references. So they're much further down the funnel than typically we would have encountered previously, when maybe the first interaction they had was just calling us and wanting to speak to a salesperson.
Yeah.
It still needs to be a really close relationship between the two, because marketing can only do so much to bring somebody in and nurture them, but ultimately it's the salesperson who has to work with them and help close the deal, particularly in the sort of B2B environment we're talking about, where you're talking about deals that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So it sounds like what you're saying is they're both equally as important, but marketing now caters for more of the customer journey than it did previously.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think when I go out and I speak to people who are responsible for customer experience, and more I'm finding there are people who've come out of the marketing organization who are responsible for that, because they understand how a brand can translate or not translate into the full end-to-end customer experience. They understand the impact that a bad service experience can have on trying to do marketing or trying to position the brand. So from that perspective, marketing kind of has a more holistic view across the business than perhaps some other functions.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I am mindful of some of the audience will be definitely working for bigger organizations. Some of them will be entrepreneurs in startup phase. And so I'm curious, like, given all of your experience, because I think that as a small business owner myself, I've learned a huge amount from reading research that's designed for bigger companies, just to get an understanding of things like customer experience and breaking down different stages of the customer journey. But what would be your best tip for, say, a business owner who may be in the startup phase that says, may only have like between 1 to 20 staff members?
Sure. I would say, I mean, go back to some of the fundamentals, and the very first fundamental for me is understand your audience, understand your customer. I think any dollar you spend on trying to understand what your customer wants, what they prioritize, how they want to interact with you, is going to return the value tenfold to you. Doesn't matter the size of organization, but I think particularly for small businesses who don't have a lot of money or resource to waste, they don't want to set down the wrong path from the beginning. So to get that true understanding of the customer from the customer's perspective is really important as the starting out point.
That's really good advice. Yeah, I mean, you get an opportunity to hear it from somebody that's got a really successful career in the marketing industry. But I mean, I come across this all the time is business owners who have kind of they do work for a lot of different audiences, and therefore their marketing says that instead of like being quite specific and niching down on where they can add the most value, and then learning about that particular client. Because if you've got 4 or 5 different types of clients, you're learning from 4 or 5 different sources, and it's just going to be a bit confusing. Yeah,
that's right. It's understanding also when you're talking about the customer is how the decision making happens, because quite often it's not a single person making a decision about these things. There's a whole ecosystem of people who are involved, whether that be a finance person or the business owner, or if it's a marketing technology, it's the marketing manager. So to go into a sale and understand who you're actually selling to and who influences it is the other critical aspect.
And how they make decisions. Yeah, very good advice. That's awesome. So are you comfortable sharing with us something that you've perhaps failed at in your career, or a challenge that you've had to overcome that perhaps we could get some value out of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of challenges, one of the most difficult things that I found is I took a bit of a segue for a while out of the kind of core field marketing work and into more of the consulting side of things. And I was dealing with a lot of kind of senior executives, but also a lot of IT people around actually things that are quite core to marketing. So the things I was talking about is how do you use personas, which we hold near and dear to our heart in marketing, and how do you apply them in a business setting to help better understand how you can service an end user? So what technology they should use, what level of service they require, even what device, what mobile phone or laptop they use. And there was a lot of questions like, what does this marketing person know about, how my business functions? And I for me, the real challenge was getting some credibility there. And it was really coming back to calling on all of that knowledge of the business and what marketing does bring to the table in terms of understanding the end user's needs, the customer's needs, understanding how to go out and research that, and how to gain the insight from it, and how to communicate that back to them.
Do you think they're starting
that was a big challenge.
Yeah, do you think other sort of facets of the companies are starting to value marketing more these days?
I think so, yeah, definitely. I mean, you see in my industry, in the software industry, that a lot of organizations purely just exist almost as marketing with some sales attached to it, because again, the customer journey is such now that all of the hard work and the selling is coming up front and attracting the customer in, and they've already done that customer journey. So it's making sure the right content is being built, making sure that you're engaging with them in the right channels. So, and also, being able to differentiate yourself in such a crowded marketplace as well and cut through the noise. It needs to be marketing helping to do that, because otherwise you just send your salespeople out to do cold calling, and that is about the hardest kind of selling that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything that I should have asked you, but I haven't?
Well, from a marketing perspective, one of the interesting things that I'm regularly coming up against with when I'm going out, particularly in the B2B space, when I'm speaking at conferences or talking to our customers, is around account-based marketing, and this idea of marketing becoming much more personalized rather than just the mass marketing. And how do you use data to be able to do that? And so I spend a lot of time talking about, well, what is account-based marketing? And what I see in the market a lot of is actually segment-based marketing, right? So they get it down to an industry, or you get it down to just a small audience group. But true account-based marketing to me is that high level of personalization. It's looking at an individual account and saying, what have you got? How do you use that better already? What do you need next? And maybe even predicting what they might need next that they don't even know that they're asking for. And then help them understand and build a roadmap for them to get there to a future business state that's going to be beneficial for them. So
valuable. I imagine it just would be like so challenging to come up with the systems to be able to implement something like that on scale. You know, it's because it's about relationships, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's very much about relationships. It's about having a deep understanding of your customer and the issues that they're facing and the marketplace that they're operating in. So it really, account-based marketing to me can't just be the marketing team either involved in that. You really need more parts of the business, whether that be your customer success team who's doing the ongoing account management, your service team, because the last thing you want to do is trying to be marketing new products and services to a customer where they're having problems with their existing implementation or in escalation.
And even in a small business, just even keeping more sort of details in their CRM so that when they're touching base with a client, they've got those insights to be able to make it personalized, I guess. That's what you're really getting to, isn't it? Because if it's moving all over to technology, we're by default losing some of that personalization, aren't we? If we don't do something about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, well, yes and no, but also you can enhance the level of personalization because you have the data at your fingertips that perhaps you never had immediately before. So you can be a lot more responsive and you can tailor the communication, you can tailor the offering to them with a lot more specificity because you're looking at real-time data based on what they're using, what they're buying, what people in their organizations are researching online to understand where they might be going next.
Yeah, I think I'm going to walk away from this interview with a lot more. I think I'm going to see the account-based marketing as something that's a lot more valuable than I realized before. Moving forward from 2020, you've really opened my eyes to that one. My final question is a bit of a fun one. You can have a bit adventurous with this one. It could be anyone from a rock singer to the Queen, but if you could hire anyone in the world to work for you, who would it be, and why?
I'm going to go really boring here. I mean, we did just run a campaign that had Clive Owen in it, and it did really well, and I was really happy to have Clive Owen involved. That was more a personal thing than anything else.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
But professionally, in my team to be successful,
that's a professional answer.
Grab the person responsible for customer analytics out of Amazon or Google or Netflix or somebody like that who can help me get that, down to what their dog's name is, knowledge of the customer to help me position ourselves better. I would love to have that sort of capability in my team.
Wow. Customer analytics. Okay, cool. That's really valuable. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you being on the CMO podcast. Guys, make sure you follow Jennifer on LinkedIn. Is that the best place to catch you, Jennifer?
Yeah, it's the best place.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Nathaniel.